In this video, we discuss Dylan Thomas and a few of his works. Dylan Thomas rose like a meteor in the firmament of literature during the Second World War. And like a meteor, he burned himself out very quickly. He was like a meteor rising in the sky and burning out like a meteor. He was dead prematurely at the age of 39. Dylan was born in 1914 and he became dead in 1953. Dylan wrote the most ecstatic lyrics known in the English language. Very ecstatic lyrics in the English language. In his private life, however, he was a petty thief, a congenital borrower, borrowing from his friends like T.S. Eliot, an incorrigible drunkard, and a compulsive womanizer. In his private life, he was a petty thief, congenital borrower, an incorrigible drunkard, and a compulsive womanizer. Dylan was born in Wales. His father was an English teacher and his mother was a seamstress. They spoke Welsh language in the family. Dylan was trained in the Welsh language also. And it is said that Dylan started writing poetry before the age of 12. But his school career came to an inglorious end. So he was not a brilliant student at the school. In the final exam, he failed in all the subjects except English. But he managed to get a job in a local newspaper and finally landed up as a BBC broadcaster. And Dylan had a passion for words. To him, words have life, sound, smell, and personality. About poetry, once he famously remarked, poetry should be as orgiastic and organic as copulation. So he famously remarked, poetry should be as orgiastic and organic as copulation. Dylan became popular through his recitations of his own poems over the BBC. And there was magic in his voice. The name Dylan actually means son of the sea. His father wanted him to be called Dylan, but his mother was not happy because the word was pronounced like Dullan, and the people might regard him as a dull person. And Dylan wanted his name to be pronounced as Dylan. And Dylan became popular through his magical voice. And the two striking qualities of his poetry are surrealistic technique and sacramental imagery. These are the two notable qualities of his poetry: surrealistic images and sacramental imagery. Surrealistic technique and sacramental imagery. And for his surrealistic technique and sacramental imagery, he was included in the group of the new apocalyptic poets. And there were the other apocalyptic poets like Alex Comfort, Dorian Cook, Philip O'Connor, and such other persons. The New Apocalypse was a collection of poems edited by J.F. Henry and Henry Trees. They produced the collection of poems by a group of new apocalyptic poets like Dylan Thomas, Alex Comfort, Dorian Cook, and Philip Corner. And the collection was brought out by JF Henry and Henry Trees. And the publication was made in 1939. Actually, the term New Apocalypse was taken from an anthology produced by D.H. Lawrence entitled Apocalypse in 1931. And the apocalyptic poets were noted for the use of surrealism, myth, expressionism, and sacramental imagery. Therefore, Dylan was also included in the group. But Dylan never acknowledged that he was a person in the group of the new apocalyptic poets. And the first collection of poems by Dylan was entitled Light Breaks When No Sun Shines. Light breaks where no sun shines. It was brought out in 1934. It was his first collection. Light breaks where no sun shines. And then he brought out another collection, The Map of Love, in 1939. It included a few of his poems. He also brought out a collection of stories, interestingly entitled Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog. Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog in 1940. In 1946, he brought out a collection called Deaths and Entrances. A few of his popular poems are included in this collection, Deaths and Entrances. The title of the volume is taken from John Donne's sermon, Death's Duel. UGC once asked this question. The title Deaths and Entrances by D.H. Lawrence is taken from where? It is taken from John Donne. Donne's sermon, Death's Duel. And the lines are, our very birth and entrance into this life is an issue from death. Our very birth and entrance into this life is an issue from death. It's a line included in John Donne's sermon, Death's Duel. Dylan has taken the title Deaths and Entrances from this sermon of John Donne, and the collection was brought out in 1946. It included his popular poems like Poem in October, Fern Hill, etc. And these poems are the best models to show Dylan's way of using surrealistic technique and sacramental imagery. For example, Poem in October deals with an early morning walk on the poet's 30th birthday. He found nature joining him in prayer. The poem is set in Lagoon. Lagoon is a fishing village. Dylan was born in a fishing village, Swansea. And after marriage, he migrated to another fishing village called Lagoon. Dylan got married with Caitlin McNamara. And it was in 1937 he got married with Caitlin McNamara. And the marriage was mutually destructive. And they settled in a fishing village called Lagoon. And this poem, Poem in October, is also set in this fishing village. It deals with an early morning walk on the poet's 30th birthday. So once you asked this question, so in Poem in October describes his birthday. Which birthday of Dylan Thomas is described in the poem? Poem in October. It is his 30th birthday. And on the 30th birthday, he found nature joining him in prayer. Rain and sunlight came alternately and almost together. It was like thoughts of the past and present getting together. Rain and sunlight came alternately and almost together, like thoughts of the past and present getting together or mixing up. And the poet's mind flew back to his childhood days. And these were the days when the poet walked with his mother through the parables of sunlight and the legends of the green chapel. The parables of sunlight. Sunlight telling parables. And the legends of green chapels. Nature producing the chapel, the green chapel. He felt sunlight as teaching him God's goodness, and the green woods functioning as nature's chapels. The poet experienced the joy of childhood through the songs of the birds. Surrealism was a favorite technique of Dylan Thomas. Surrealism actually means superrealism. It originated in France as a poetic movement and spread over the world. So it permits the writer to go to any extent of mixing and mingling of thoughts and imagery. Surrealistic technique. And it revolts against all restraints of the human mind. These restraints include logical reasoning of the mind, artistic conventions, standard morality. In a surrealistic poem, there will be no standard morality kept up. No artistic conventions followed. Actually, surrealism questioned the reasoning of the mind, artistic conventions, and standard morality. The surrealists believe in a free flow of mind's deepest feelings. The surrealist poets believe in a free flow of mind's deepest feelings. So the deepest feelings can go to any extent. For example, in poem in October, we find the past and present of the poet getting mingled up. So Dylan Thomas, despite his rakish life, that he led a rakish life, I told you that he was a congenital borrower, incorrigible drunkard, and compulsive womanizer. He was also a petty thief. Despite his rakish life, Dylan uses highly religious imagery, and most of his descriptions have a religious association. For example, in the opening part of his poem in October, the white herons are described as priests in a state of prayer. The herons are described as priests in a state of prayer. The herons standing in a single leg are found praying like a priest in prayer. And the sound of the water flowing is described as water praying. The sound of the water is described as water praying. And later in the poem, there are references to the parables of sunlight and the legends of the green chapels. Sunlight is here described as doing the work of parables in teaching goodness to man. And the green woods are described as nature's prayer halls. Dylan was a past master in the art of using sacramental imagery. In Fernhill also, his other poem, Fernhill, it's autobiographical poem. It describes his life as he matures from a carefree youth to an adult who laments the loss of his childhood. The lamenting the loss of the childhood is found in poem in October, and in Fernhill also the same is repeated. And it is a two-part poem. There are 3 stanzas in Fernhill in the beginning, and there are again 3 stanzas, totally 6 stanzas, and the first 3 stanzas related to the experience of the childhood of the poet, spending his days at his aunt's estate called Fernhill. And the last 3 stanzas lament the loss of his childhood. So the loss of the world of innocence. Dylan also produced a few film scripts and plays. One popular play by him was entitled Under Milkwood, and it is written as a radio play. The dreams and innermost thoughts of the inhabitants of the fictional small fishing village of Lare Gabba is presented in the play. The dreams and the innermost thoughts of the inhabitants living in a fictional small fishing village called Lare Gabba. And the characters are very interesting. One character is named Mrs. Ogmore Pitchard, nagging her two dead lovers, speaking about her dead lovers. And there is another interesting character named Captain Cat. And he is interested in reliving his seafaring experiences. And he is found sitting in the pub and telling people about his seafaring experiences. And there is also another person, Organ Morgan. He is obsessed with his music. And he is found sitting in the pub with his musical instrument and playing. And then there is Polly Garter, pining for her dead lover. And the story of the play is based on a story written by him under the title Quite Early One Morning. I told you Dylan has a collection of stories also under the title Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog, imitating the title of James Joyce. James Joyce has got his title Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. And here the collection by Dylan is called Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog, a collection of 10 short stories. And most of them chronicle his youth at Swansea in South Wales. And you can find more details of Dylan Thomas in the notes given to you. Thank you.